There comes a moment in every person's life when they must decide what their mind will serve. Fear or faith, doubt or certainty, hesitation or decisive action. The truth is simple, yet powerful beyond measure. Your thoughts become your reality, and whatever you repeat with feeling becomes a law in your life. If you whisper weakness, weakness is what you'll live. But if you repeat strength, success, and unwavering belief, you forge a new world around you. You are not defined by the circumstances you face, but by the thoughts you permit to occupy your mind. Repetition is the sculptor, belief is the foundation, and action is the bridge between the unseen and the achieved. Every towering success, every breakthrough, every dream made real began as a single thought repeated with such persistence that the world itself had no choice but to yield to it. Today, you stand at the doorway of that same power. If you will discipline your mind to repeat the idea of your success, if you will nurture belief until it burns like a living fire within you, and if you will act with conviction, even when results seem small, then nothing can prevent you from creating the life you demand. The world bends to those who repeat their purpose, believe in their vision, and move with massive, relentless action. Today, that power is yours. The mind becomes whatever it is repeatedly fed, and this simple truth holds more power than most people ever realize. Every thought, every idea, every feeling you allow to enter your consciousness is like a seed planted in fertile soil. Some seeds grow into towering trees of confidence, clarity, and purpose, while others sprout into choking weeds of doubt, fear, and hesitation. The astonishing part is that the mind never rejects what you feed it. It only reflects it, amplifies it, and eventually expresses it in the form of habits, attitudes, and the outcomes you experience in life. If a person constantly fills their mind with excuses, limitations, and negative expectations, they unknowingly craft a future that mirrors those thoughts. If another person repeatedly nourishes their mind with thoughts of strength, achievement, and possibility, they shape a destiny crafted from those empowering beliefs. You cannot expect success while feeding the mind with the language of failure. You cannot expect confidence if every day you repeat to yourself that you are not enough, or that life is too difficult, or that opportunities are too rare. The mind does not choose for you, it obeys you. What you think most often becomes what you believe, and what you believe eventually becomes what you live. This is why repetition is one of the most important forces in human growth. It is not one inspiring thought that transforms a person, but the persistent repetition of that thought until it becomes a dominating belief. That belief reshapes behavior. Behavior reshapes results, and results reshape one's entire experience of life. Imagine a person who wakes each morning and silently repeats the idea that they are capable, worthy, and committed to achieving something meaningful. At first, the words feel unfamiliar, almost foreign, because the mind is still carrying the weight of old patterns. But repetition has a subtle power. Each time those words are spoken, they strengthen a little, they sink deeper, they become more real. The person begins acting in new ways because the mind can no longer hold two opposing truths. If you repeat confidence long enough, you behave confidently. If you repeat doubt long enough, you behave doubtfully. The mind expresses what it hears most often. This is why the environment you surround yourself with matters. The people you talk to, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain. Every one of them is feeding your mind something. Many people do not choose what they feed their mind. They allow the world to choose for them. They absorb negativity from conversations, discouragement from critics, fear from the news, and confusion from their surroundings. Without realizing it, they are repeating thoughts they did not choose and building beliefs that do not support their potential. But anyone who understands the power of repetition takes control of this process. They guard their mind with intention. They select their thoughts the way a gardener selects which seeds to plant, knowing that whatever goes into the soil will eventually grow. You can feed your mind ideas that elevate you or ideas that diminish you. You can use repetition to build courage or to build fear. You can repeat a vision of success or replay memories of limitations. The mind does not discriminate. It does not question your motives. It only absorbs and reflects. This is both a warning and a promise. It is a warning because you must become aware of what you allow into your mental environment. It is a promise because once you deliberately choose what to repeat, you gain the power to redirect your entire life. When you repeat a thought with emotion, the mind begins to accept that thought as truth. When you repeat it with belief, it becomes even stronger. When you repeat it with persistence, it becomes a part of your identity. And once a thought becomes part of your identity, it begins reshaping your habits, your decisions, your level of effort, your sense of possibility, and ultimately your destiny. Every person who has accomplished something extraordinary has used repetition in some form, repeating a vision, a purpose, a commitment, a belief in something greater than their circumstances. They repeated it not once, not occasionally, but constantly, until the world was forced to yield to their internal conviction. Nothing in life changes until your repeated thoughts change. Nothing grows until your mental diet grows stronger. The mind is always listening, always absorbing, always responding to what you feed it. And over time, it becomes a mirror of your most persistent thoughts, reflecting them outward into the world as behaviors, results, and realities that shape the direction of your life. Repetition shapes belief, and belief shapes destiny. This is one of the quiet but unstoppable forces in a person's life, working whether they understand it or not. Belief does not simply appear out of nowhere. It is built layer by layer, thought by thought, experience by experience, until it becomes the internal compass guiding every decision and every response to life's challenges. A person becomes what they believe they
are capable of becoming.
And those beliefs are molded through the ideas they repeat to themselves day after day, often without awareness of just how deeply those patterns are carving the boundaries of their reality. Belief is not magic. It is not wishful thinking. It is a mental blueprint that directs your actions, shapes your expectations, and ultimately influences the results you attract. Many people underestimate how much power belief holds because they think of it as something abstract or intangible. But belief shows itself in everything you do. It shows in how you speak to yourself when you fail. It shows in how quickly you get back up after a setback. It shows in whether you take small, timid steps or bold, decisive ones. It shows in how you interpret challenges, either as signs to quit or as proof that you are on the edge of growth. Belief sits beneath all of this, quietly steering you even when you think you are acting logically. What repetition does is slowly rewrite the script that plays in your mind. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not ready, not worthy, not strong enough, you start believing it. You behave as though it is true. You shrink from opportunities. You allow fear to overpower your decisions. You settle for less than what you truly want, not because you lack ability, but because your belief trained you to step back instead of step forward. On the other hand, if you repeatedly tell yourself that you can, that you are capable, that you are committed to becoming more than you have been, that message grows roots. It becomes familiar. It becomes believable. And when it becomes believable, it becomes real. The mind does not judge your repeated thoughts. It accepts them. If you repeat something with enough frequency and emotion, the mind begins to take it as fact. It starts aligning your behavior to match that belief. Even small repetition matter. A person who repeats to themselves that they will improve a little each day starts noticing tiny opportunities they had previously ignored. Their belief in progress leads them to take actions that support progress. A person who repeats that they will succeed eventually becomes resilient in the face of challenges because the belief leaves no room for permanent defeat. Repetition creates belief, and belief creates the lens through which you interpret your entire life. Consider how children form their earliest beliefs. They hear the same messages repeatedly, some empowering, some limiting. Over time, those messages become their identity, their understanding of what is possible for them. Adults are no different. You are still living out beliefs that were repeated to you long before you had the power to question them. But the moment you take control of what you repeat to yourself, you take control of your future. You begin to replace inherited beliefs with chosen ones. You start feeding the mind thoughts that support the life you want instead of the life you fear. Belief also shapes your energy. When you believe something is possible, your body responds with a different level of enthusiasm. Your actions become more deliberate, your effort more consistent. Obstacles appear smaller. Failure looks temporary. You act like someone who expects to win, and because of that, you behave in ways that increase your chances of winning. People sometimes call this confidence or motivation, but at its core, it is belief. Belief strengthened through repetition until it becomes unshakable. Belief also influences the kinds of opportunities you pursue. Someone who believes they are meant for something greater is always scanning the world for opportunities to grow. They notice chances others overlook. They prepare for possibilities that haven't arrived yet. They speak and carry themselves with a vision that others can sense. Doors open for them not because of luck, but because belief gave them the courage to knock, even when uncertainty was high. On the other side, someone who believes they are limited or unworthy often misses opportunities that were right in front of them. They assume things won't work out. They hesitate. They doubt. They repeat a story of limitation until life reflects that story back to them. This is the power of repetition shaping belief and belief shaping destiny. Your life expands or contracts according to the beliefs you hold, and those beliefs are molded by the thoughts you choose to repeat. When you understand this, you stop waiting for external circumstances to change your life. You begin shaping your internal world first, knowing that your external world will eventually follow. Every great achievement begins as a single dominating thought, and it is remarkable how often people overlook the power contained within the very first spark of an idea. A dominating thought is not just any thought. It is a thought that captures the mind with such intensity and persistence that it becomes the central force guiding decisions, behavior, and focus. Long before success shows itself on the outside, it exists quietly within the mind as a vision that refuses to be ignored. The most significant accomplishments in the world, whether in business, art, invention, or personal transformation, did not start with resources, connections, or perfect circumstances. They started with a thought that someone refused to dismiss, a thought that demanded attention and action. A dominating thought has a certain energy to it. It pulls your attention even when you are tired, even when distractions surround you, even when others cannot see what you see. It is the thought that keeps returning no matter how many times you try to push it aside. It lingers, and you wake in the morning and speaks to you before you fall asleep. It becomes the source of your imagination, your plans, your motivation, and the silent reason you keep trying despite difficulties. People often think destiny is shaped by chance or by outside forces, but more often destiny is shaped by which thought you allow to dominate your mind. You cannot hold a powerful thought of success and live a life of defeat unless you abandon that thought. You cannot repeatedly imagine a meaningful goal and take no steps toward it unless fear replaces the original vision. The dominating thought dictates the direction. When that thought becomes strong enough, it begins to transform everything about the way you move through life. You walk differently, speak differently, and think differently because the mind begins adjusting itself to match the inner picture you are holding. Solutions start appearing where you once saw obstacles. Opportunities emerge that were invisible before. People with similar visions start crossing your path. This is not magic. It is the mind filtering the world to match your focus. When you hold a dominating thought with enough consistency, your mind begins scanning your environment for anything that supports, and you start ignoring the noise that once distracted you. The more intensely you concentrate on that thought, the more your behavior naturally aligns with it. A person without a dominating thought drifts. They move through life passively, pulled in different directions by other people's opinions, temporary emotions, and random circumstances. But the person with a dominating thought has direction. Their attention is not scattered because their mind has a central point of focus that everything else is measured against. When a choice needs to be made, that person knows whether it supports or distracts from their vision. That clarity alone gives them an advantage most people never experience. They may not have all the answers at the beginning, but they possess something far more valuable, a single thought strong enough to keep them moving. It is important to understand that a dominating thought does not have to be grand or dramatic. It simply has to matter deeply to the person who holds it. It may be the thought of improving one's life, building a business, lifting one's family, mastering a skill, or creating something that did not exist before. What matters is not the size of the thought, but the strength of your attachment to it. Some people change their entire destiny because they allowed a single thought, just one, to fully take root in their mind, and they nurtured it long enough for it to grow. Once a dominating thought takes hold, it fuels your imagination. You begin picturing possibilities more vivid than your current reality. You start mapping out steps, seeing outcomes, feeling emotions tied to achievements that have not yet occurred. Imagination becomes the workshop where your future begins taking shape. You may not share these visions with others at first, because the world often misunderstands dreams in their early stages. But your mind understands. It recognizes the power of the picture you are building and begins working in the background to help you bring it into reality. People sometimes wonder why they lose motivation or why their progress feels slow. Often it is because they never allowed one thought to become strong enough to lead. They scatter their attention across 10 goals, 20 wishes, or countless distractions, never giving any single idea the chance to become dominating. A person cannot move powerfully in many directions at once. But when they choose one dominating thought and commit to it, everything begins to align. Great achievements are not accidents. They are the result of a mind locked onto a single idea with such intensity that the world slowly rearranges itself around that focus. The dominating thought becomes the silent architect of your future, guiding you long before anyone else sees what you see. Action transforms desire into physical reality, and this is one of the greatest differences between those who achieve their goals and those who only dream about them. Desire alone, no matter how strong or inspiring, changes nothing in the world until action gives it form. A person can imagine a better life, repeat powerful thoughts, and hold a clear vision, but without the courage to take the first step, the vision remains trapped in the realm of imagination. Action is the force that bridges the invisible with the visible, the thought with the experience, the potential with the actual outcome. It is the moment when the mind stops planning and begins creating, when the dream stops floating and begins solidifying. Action does not always feel glamorous or exciting. Many times it begins with small, uncomfortable movements that do not look impressive at all. The first step is often awkward, uncertain, and quiet, but it is also the most powerful because it starts the chain reaction that turns momentum into progress. Think of how many brilliant ideas have disappeared simply because the person who imagined them never acted. They waited for the perfect moment, the perfect resources, or the perfect confidence. And in that waiting, their desire cooled and eventually faded. Action does not wait for perfect conditions. It moves even when conditions are imperfect, because it understands that perfection grows out of progress, not the other way around. A person who acts consistently surpasses the person who plans endlessly. Planning has value, but it must not become an escape from action. The world rewards movement. When you take even a small step toward your goal, life responds with opportunities you could not have predicted. Doors open, people appear, ideas expand, and problems you feared suddenly seem smaller. There is something about action that invites clarity. Many people sit still, trying to think their way into confidence or clarity, but true clarity usually comes after the first steps are taken, not before. Once you begin moving, you learn what works and what doesn't, and every action becomes a teacher. Action also builds self-trust. Each time you follow through on something you said you would do, your belief in yourself deepens. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of progress. Someone who honors their word, someone who moves toward their purpose regardless of discomfort or uncertainty. Self-trust is a form of inner strength, and it is created through repeated action. It cannot be developed through thought alone. You must act your way into the mindset you want to have, because behavior shapes identity just as much as identity shapes behavior. Without action, even the strongest belief remains incomplete. Belief gives you direction, but action gives you results. Belief prepares the soil, but action plants the seed. Without the planting, nothing ever grows. Many people delay taking action because of fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. But failure is simply feedback. Judgment is temporary, and skill is developed through repetition. The real danger is inaction, because inaction guarantees that nothing changes. You can correct a mistake, but you cannot correct the path you never walk. Action does not have to be dramatic to be effective. Consistent small steps often outperform occasional massive leaps. The compound effect of daily action builds momentum, and momentum becomes a force of its own. Once you gain momentum, you no longer have to push yourself with the same effort as before. Your past actions begin working for you. Every day you take action